Well, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead. Start the meeting. I'd like to call to order the Town of Front Royal Board of Architectural Review, the August 22nd meeting. Quickly, a little housekeeping. Minutes from our last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review? All right. Motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
So on to new business, the Historic Overlay District Guidelines. Previously, we had been talking about adding an addendum for demolition review. This previously wasn't in the guidelines, but we thought it would be a useful tool to guide projects, future projects. We can vote tonight to add this to the guidelines. Any thoughts, opinions are? Jeremy, anything to add?
Just one minor correction under the
Okay.
word not on item number 1, just a minor typographical error. It should read, is the building identified as a contributing structure? Is the building not identified?
I didn't hear anything. Okay. Okay. Good. Can't see or hear anyone.
I know.
Okay, well, did you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept this into the packet.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, so great, we'll add this and it'll be part of our guidelines. All right. And the reason most of us are here tonight, there's a application for demolition, FRCOA-000455, 2017. Jeremy.
Thank you. The application was submitted by the Economic Development Authority. You have a number of items in your packet, including the staff report. There's a letter from the Economic Development Authority, as well as additional information provided by the Economic Development Authority on the application, as well as what the intended future reuse of the property could be. I would stress, I guess, the application before us tonight is just for the demolition, not for the future proposed use. Staff has recommendations. If the Board of Architectural Review determines it to be appropriate to demolish the building, staff recommends that the demolition not take place until the applicant submits plans for the new building, and that a development surety be in place before demolition, approved in the form of the town attorney in order to guarantee that the demolition is completed once started. And I believe that the applicant is in agreement on both of those conditions.
Now, you say the plans have to be submitted, but they also have to be approved.
Yes, the way it's worded in the full recommendation is reviewed and approved. So it would move past the question of the demolition, and then it would, before the demolition can take place, there would have to be plans approved. That way the building wouldn't be demolished until we actually know what we're going to do with the property.
Okay, so our group has had a few meetings that have been open to the public. They've been covered by the press here, thank you. Now we're at the public hearing, so I I'd like to hear from everyone. General guidelines, we're gonna try to keep this to about 3 minutes so we can get through as many people as possible. I see there are a number signed up. So, let's get started. Okay. Okay, yeah. So we'll start, looks like Shelley Cook, please. And you could also state your name. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Shelley Cook, and I'm basically here tonight because I really just don't want to see this torn down. I'm a lifetime resident of Warren County, and like the other people, I have a vested interest in what happens in this building. I don't know what the status of the Afton Inn is at this point as far as, but I have heard that it was going to be torn down, and I guess that's the demolition. That's what you all are talking about. I think it would be a shame, given the historic sentiment it has given with a lot of the residents of the community, and that it was the first prehistoric building in the Civil War built after it was over. So I, along with a few other citizens, would like to see the building remodeled, not torn down, and are willing to do so and return it to its once similar grandeur that it had on Main Street. You know, my memories of Main Street, hate to tell my age, were that with this building. And there's a lot of things that if you've lived here as long as I've lived here, you've grown to love that. And although I think it is an eyesore right now, I believe that we can bring that back and we can make a historic building look beautiful again. I don't think that we need to tear it down. I think it can be remodeled and saved, and I really hope that this board will listen to that, because there's a lot of buildings in this community that if we just started tearing them down, well, we would just be here all the time to do that. I think that we can make things beautiful again. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, on my list, William Puck. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. My name is William Huck, property owner of 409 413 East Main Street in Front Royal. Business owner of CNC Frozen Treats located at 409 East Main Street. Being a newcomer here, I sympathize with you. I believe history should be preserved if at all possible. On this particular building, I have looked into numerous things on this as well. Being a building owner on Main Street, I want to know what's going on. For this to be approved, I would like to see that it is put into writing, that we have some form of bond, that when the demolition is taking place, that we have a start date on the new construction. This building is going to take years of planning to revitalize this particular building. It is in very much so disarray, and so that's what I would propose, is that we move forward with a bond set into place, that we have guidelines for demolition, for reconstruction, and plans approved before any demolition is started on this particular property, because it does mean so much too. And I would like to see it rebuilt back to historic age for that particular building. So let's go back to that time period as far as structure goes. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, I mean, basically from your words, you'll tell us, but sort of a thumbs up, thumbs down, just because I'm trying to keep a mentality when you come up. Well, I was just asking if they could sort of say, I know what they're going to say is going to tell us, but could they also just say, I'm supporting its demolition, or I would like to see it preserved?
Okay, yeah.
I think they're saying that.
Hmm? Yeah, okay, or you're not sure.
Okay. All right, so number 3, Brett Herbeck.
Good evening, Brett Burbeck. Moved here in '75, grew up here, and remember Main Street from growing up, as well as served on the town council from 2006 to 2010 and 2012 to this past year. I am for taking it down. We moved, the town council swapped that building several years ago for the purpose of seeing it redeveloped. The EDA was charged with trying to find a developer that could do that. It has been nearly impossible to find somebody that would be able to do it with private funds within the confines of what the building is now. If I had my way, based off of comments that I've had from friends that have come to visit Front Royal, and the first thing when I bring them down to Main Street is, what in the world is going on with this? Do you want to do me a favor and tear it down myself? Almost taking them up on that offer. It's an eyesore and detriment to our community. I'm not a business owner, but I am a businessman in our community. And I'm proud of our town. I'm proud of what the revitalization that's going on Main Street, as well as throughout the whole community. And I think that it's important that that space be an anchor. I would urge you to look down to Blacksburg, where I went to college. And Blacksburg has had a nice renaissance as well, where they've taken older buildings, they've either taken them down or in vacant lots, replaced them with new economic development that has revitalized as well that town. Changed the landscape, no question about it, but I think for the better. I am not so hinged on old buildings and history that I don't think that we should move forward in the progress of what's right for our community today. And that part of it being right is creating new economic opportunities with the new building and letting go the old and moving on with the new. So I'm in favor of the demolishing it. I would be happy to see a private developer do it on their own, and even if we don't like what they decided to do and you don't want to do that, at least we had somebody else tear it down for us. And make it a park, make it an empty lot, start something, because that building is a danger and an eyesore, and we've done everything we can to try to replace it with something within those, within that footprint that's already there, and it has not been possible. And I think that if we decide not to, and the town council would agree with you, we would continue to have an eyesore that's going to sit there in perpetuity, and we're all going to regret that decision. So thank you for your efforts and your volunteerism, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, thank you. And I apologize if I'm screwing anything.
I know it's me,
Sonia.
Albert, right?
Albert, yes. I appreciate it, thank you. And then,
A familiar dilemma.
thank you.
I wrote my comments down because I have a lot of different things to say and want to remember them.
Sure.
I'm mixed on part demolition, part preservation. So thank you for this opportunity to address the proposed demolition of the Afton Inn. I watched the tour and the meeting online and was both impressed by and grateful for the commitment to historical and aesthetic stewardship expressed by the Board of Architectural Review. During last fall's branding work for Front Royal, I was heartened to see the strong preference for maintaining facades and repairing and enhancing the many treasures our community already has in place. I personally would like to see the facade and roof line of the Afton Inn preserved, preferably with the same materials. The rear and interior are less important. I can imagine little sadder than doing a tour of Battle of Front Royal with nothing but a historical marker that simply describes what once was. Once the building is demolished, what insurance do we have their developer would not default? Sounds like we've taken care of that. I know that grants have already been sought, but as a grant writer, I wonder if the USDA Rural Development Program might offer a funding opportunity not yet explored. The work on Carter and Burton, the architect's website, is beautiful, and the Barns of Rose Hill is an apt comparison to this project in terms of adaptive reuse. But overall, the aesthetic on the website trends toward modernist solutions, which I also enjoy, but not in this situation. We need to take the case of the Afton Inn as an object lesson. Our historic district needs to be respected and supported, not just with guidelines, but with accountability to rules. Why, for example, have we allowed a building to be painted Remax blue? Why is another being painted right now, it's trim bubblegum paint? Neither of these pigments was even available before the turn of the century. I'm as fond of these businesses as anyone, and I personally respect and appreciate the generous contribution and support they provide, but neither of these choices is appropriate for our historic district. Naysayers may claim that rules dissuade businesses from moving in, but I see plenty of evidence to the contrary. Take a look at Winchester, Stanton, Culpeper, Middleburg, Fredericksburg. All hold developers and businesses accountable, and all have effected stunning downtown revitalizations over the past 10 years, embodying the authenticity that residents and visitors cherish. Throughout our town are derelict properties, residential and commercial, in various stages of decay, whose owners have not been held accountable. How does this benefit us? Many of these buildings should not be torn down, but restored or adapted for contemporary use. I also see us slowly but surely losing the opportunity to establish, yes, a second historic district on Shenandoah Avenue, where iconic mid-century gems such as the Howard Johnson's and the Silver Diner have already been replaced with generic architecture and franchise businesses. When representatives from the Virginia Tourism Corporation visited Front Royal a couple of years ago, they could not believe we had such treasures as that row of 1950s motels intact. While the rest of the world has made mid-century modern a priority, we don't even recognize what we have. I would like to close by thanking Ann Rose for the beauty she has brought to our town through her department's care of our public landscape, and to Felicia Hart for the energy she has brought to revitalizing our downtown with appropriate visuals and businesses. Finally, thank you to the EDA for persistence in seeking a solution for this difficult challenge.
Thank you. Next I have Joe Andrews.
Joe Andrews. I own property in both the county and the town. I have a deep love for historic buildings and all things historic. Thumbs down for demolition. I was privileged today through a friend of mine to meet a developer in Winchester who is very skilled at preparing these types of old structures for re-entry into business through both residential and commercial development. I think that he has a plan to move forward with saving this building for monies far less than it would cost to even demolish it. There's going to be a day when tourists aren't going to come to Front Royal to see the Verizon building and the building that we stand in now, because it's just not historic. We only have one chance to preserve this history, and that falls on you folks. Do the right thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Sorry, I gotta pull it up. Number 6, Craig Laird. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Craig Laird. I own a couple businesses in downtown Front Royal, and I own some property in the town of Front Royal as well. I've lived here for a number of years, and I recall a Victorian building that sat on South Royal Avenue that housed my father's mustache that was very quickly demolished with very little input from the public. So I appreciate the fact that we can come here and talk about this issue before we make a big decision. The Afton Inn at that time, when my father's mustache building was demolished and had been certified that it needed to be demolished, was closed down at that point. In fact, it's been closed down for as long as I can remember. For more years, it's been closed down the majority of the years that I've lived here. There have been many efforts to revitalize this building and look at it and re-engineer it and look at cost studies. Unfortunately, it looks like the cost to renovate this building far exceeds the value that we gained from any type of revitalization of it. So at this point, I'm in favor of the unfortunate demolition of this building and bringing something new as a phoenix in its coming forth. But I think that we as citizens need to be protected of this. Who's to say that we demolish this building and then somebody comes and puts up a garish building, or probably can't put a 7-Eleven there, we've got enough of them in town already. other types of buildings that would not be appropriate at the gateway to our downtown. So I would wish that we could put into place some type of bond, some type of performance bond to show that somebody's actually going to bring forth plans that will be developed, not sold to another developer. Just put that in it as well, to protect our interests. Also, that the time for construction beginning and construction ending have certain dates added to it so that we know we're actually going to get something that is not going to fall apart. We already have a town hall, or former town hall, that supposedly was to be occupied. But unfortunately, nothing's happened with that when we made the trade-off between the Afton Inn and the former town hall. So I would urge this committee to make sure that we have the proper verbiage in place, the proper contracts in place, that should we vote to demolish this building, that we do end up with something very appropriate and very, very nice for the entrance to our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, I believe, I'm sorry if I'm misreading the handwriting, June Reinhardt.
My name is June Reinhardt.
Thank
I
you.
moved here actually 22 years ago. And I moved to Front Royal because I love the historic part of town. I live actually in this area. I'm for not demolishing this building unless every avenue has been explored to restore it. I have seen, we own property in another historic town, and I have seen buildings much worse than that have been rehabbed and turned into a wonderful benefit to the community through taxes and that are returned, and other businesses come in. So it is not impossible. It may be difficult, but and I'd be glad to share that with you or the EDA how that happened, when that happened. I say that we tried to retain it. I also echo Sonia's comments about the VAR guidelines on painting in town. I think it's important to have historic-looking buildings, and we love ice cream, and you know that's great, and I don't hold that against the CNC. But if you go to historic towns anywhere else, Winchester or Williamsburg, you see basically what was there at the time, and they are very careful about that. If you're in a homeowners association, you have to get approval for painting your shutters. And what that does, it keeps the value of your home and increases the value of your home. So I know the guidelines do not cover painting now. I've already asked that of the planning office, and it's not there. So I would encourage you to amend those and present to your town council something that would enable a review before those painting jobs take place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 8 on our list, I have Rick Novak. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, this is like deja vu. I came out 3 years ago to speak in favor of the swap. Sorry, I'm Rick Novak. I'm with Royal Cinemas.
Thank you.
Right across the street. I have operated that business since 1994. I came to town in 1990. I served on the Economic Development Authority for almost 13 years and was actually deeply involved in a lot of this project while I was chairman of the Economic Development Authority. 3 years ago, the building swap occurred because Mr. Barrows, who owned it at the time, had decided not to do anything with the property. None of us really know exactly what came into his decision making on that. But for those that were around at the time and involved with it, a lot of it seemed to be directly related to kind of what we're going through right now. Mr. Barrows came to town. He had a really great plan for the building. I think it was going to go up a story. He had some grand plans. But this body, town council, planning department, we muffed it. And you know what? He decided he wasn't welcome. And so he picked up his toys and he went somewhere else. And he left the building the way you see it now. Actually, no, he didn't. He left it worse until we got on him as a community and said we need to board up the windows and keep the stuff from falling on people's heads. But this has been going on for a long time. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, honestly, I think it's great everybody's out here tonight. This is awesome. But I've been looking at it for 20-some years. Just the way it is now, or worse. For those of you that want to preserve it, I love your sentiment. I like the old buildings too. I own one. It was built in 1930. May not be as historic as that one, but believe me, to keep it up costs a lot of money. And this building has had many avenues, maybe not all, Jim, but many avenues have been explored over the time period, with multiple developers in the last 3 years. It's unfortunate, but I mean, we've all watching it deteriorate, watched the back of the building partially fall out, the bricks, you know, in the back there. I looked at the video. I mean, I hope you guys looked at the video of their tour. It's amazing. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money. And just because we can do it, doesn't mean we should do it. I mean, what is so warm and fuzzy about that building? If you look at the package here, it actually was kind of attractive when it had the porches, but the porches had to come down. I don't know if somebody knocked them down, ran into a car or what, but they came down. But it's actually a really attractive building. But since the porches have been gone, not so attractive, and mostly boarded up and falling apart. So anyway, those of you that want to save it, I just ask you, where have you been? I know you're out here tonight for your lovely community, and I support that, and I love the community too. But I'm really radical here. I believe that if we can't get something done with it, let's just tear the darn thing down and let's put a fountain there. Because, as everybody says, this is like the gateway to our community. It's right across from our Warren County Courthouse. How dare us leave it this way? I mean, it's embarrassing, as Brett said, that that building has been that way all this time. It's just embarrassing. If you look here in the you know, we talk about what the Board of Architectural Review is supposed to do. It says to preserve and improve the quality of life for residents of the town of Front Royal by protecting familiar and treasured visual elements in the area. What is treasured about the Afton Inn? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what percentage of its life it's been derelict, but it's all my time here. It also says the Board of Architectural Review is supposed to help to stabilize and improve property values by providing incentives for upkeep and rehabilitation of older structures, and by encouraging desirable uses and forms of economic development. Well, we are way late to the party on this one. I mean, way late. So, in closing, I guess I would just like to say that it all just seems so obvious at this point that that building should come down. I think we're really, really fortunate to have somebody who wants to redevelop it. And by the way, their package, they want to redevelop it so it closely resembles what you have now, what you want to try and preserve. You're laughing. I saw your interview. You held up that thing and you said, oh, we're not going to accept this. You're laughing. I defy you to tell me what is so different from what they're proposing than what you see there now. I defy you. You can't do it.
Oh, I can.
Well, I don't think so, but you know what, it's not a debate. And so, but this only looks like about 1,000% better. But, so anyway, you're lucky that somebody's willing to say they will reclaim much of the materials and use it as a site. And I know you guys want to say, well, how much is that and stuff, but you guys, you should try and figure out how hard it is to do economic development. To make money in a small town is challenging. And you guys want to get in the way. And I just encourage you not to do that. Value this project. Get out of the way. Let the demolition occur. Let them build a building that resembles the one that was there. And just get over it. Because you're way late. You're just all so way late. And the only other thing I'll say is, and I love some of you guys that are making these statements. I really do. I mean, June, we're friends. But listen, you are not going to tell me how. Good. Good. Because I have lots of history. I know what's going on down here. I know what's going on. I lived it. I have to make money down here. And I'm going to tell you, if you all want to tell me how to paint my damn building, we're going to have a war. We are going to have a war. Because I bought it, I pay taxes on it, and I'll be damned if you're going to tell me how to paint my building.
So the next name on our list, I have Mary Bryan. Thank you.
I'm sure you'd be a lot nicer.
I have you written down too, because
Okay, we're here to hear you.
I'm
Thank
Mary
you.
Ryan. I live in Rockland. I'm all over town, but I work here every day and consider it my hometown. And we all know that the Afton Inn is an icon of our town. It's valuable both historically and culturally, and it's located right in the center of town. So with that, I ask, why as a community do we not invest in our cultural history? Why can't we take pleasure in the opportunity of creating something special here? I often hear, when I hear about it, it's more of superb, special place. We as a community own it. So I ask, why allow our icon to be torn down before there is even a real proposal? I'm not against restaurants, I'm not against apartments, we have a lot, they work well, it's great downtown. I just think that we need to look further. Since we're being asked to provide a blank slate on which to build, it's taken away a lot of these issues. And I feel like we as a community should take more time to consider other options. One suggestion, or my suggestion, is that we have a charrette, and we can invite town and county residents. It's all, we're all invested in that building, and ask each of us what our opinions are. And I think we might come up with some ideas that have been presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have on my list. Were anyone else here would like to speak? Yes.
I
didn't realize there was a sign-up sheet. I apologize for that.
You can sign in. Sure. And also state your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Dard, 428 West 15th Street. everybody's getting a little bio, lifelong resident here, and I know Rick said he's devoted a lot of time to the afternoon, but I got a feeling I've probably put as much time into it, as researched it as much as anybody else, and I'm neither a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I have options that I think we need to discuss. As Brett stated, the building was swapped with the thing to do something about it. It was one of the biggest complaints the whole time I served in local politics was the Afton Inn. Do something with that building. Something needs to be done with that building. We looked back and forth. We tried several things. As Brett said, we turned it over to the EDA. They did all they could do to try to get somebody to come in there. We had developers come in there. So as I see it right now, we're left with two choices. One is to demolish the building. But I do agree with a lot of people that spoke here. If it is demolished, I do think there needs to be bonds and securities put in place. Once the building's tore down and a contract is put in place, then it needs to be carried through. I think it will be a beautiful building. From what I've seen, I agree with that 100%. The only other option I see is that the EDA convert the building back to the town of Front Royal, and the town of Front Royal redevelop the building themselves, and that's going to cost taxpayer dollars. So if everybody that's up here is willing to speak and willing to raise their taxes, which, you know, it's all fun to say, we've tried this option, we've tried that option. Jennifer can tell you, Brett can tell you, other members in this room can tell you, we've tried every option. That's the only other option. Now, not everybody might not agree to that. You know, I'm telling you, it's going to cost 5 or 6 cents on the 100 to do that building and do it right. I personally would agree to that, but I got a feeling when the rubber meets the road, that's not going to happen. So if that's the case, I agree with a couple things Rick said. I agree with the fact that we've exhausted every avenue. I do think that whatever we put there would be beneficial. I agree with Brett. If nothing's there, it's better than what's there now. You know, there was a time that I even thought about, when Miss Windrow was alive, to have her come in to see if she could paint the windows and stuff, at least to make it look better than it looks just all boarded up. I even thought even entered my mind, but we never got there. But something needs to move. It's one or two things. Either the citizens of this community, and I'm not going to put the burden on the town council because I've been there, it's their decision to make, but the citizens community need to take that building back, give it back to the town, spend the money, redevelop the building, which is not going to be cheap. It's going to be very expensive. Or let this developer move in here and do what he's got to do to fix that problem. That's the two options. That's the way I see it. Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
My name's Dean Corwin. Let's see, I was born in 1944, that's when I came from Roy. I have seen the Afton Inn, as I remember, since back in the late 60s, early 70s. It was an eyesore at that time. And it has not improved. I live at 316 West Main Street, and I have to drive down by that thing every day. It needs to come down. It's past time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
please. We're on page 2. Not a problem.
My name's Mike Grabowski. I'm not a resident, full disclosure. And I don't necessarily feel like I have a dog in the hunt. Don't necessarily have an emotion one way or the other about the permanence of this building. What I would like to speak about, though, is, you know, this gentleman said we're latecomers to the game, and I would agree with that, except that the game, as I see, is rapidly changing. This neo-urbanist movement, this return to these urban centers within these suburban towns around DC, if they're properly done, they become economic engines for the entire community. So I feel like I haven't heard that discussed tonight, and my concern would be that if it is the intent of city management to sort of head in that direction with downtown Front Royal and follow the path of so many other communities that have been mentioned here tonight, that setting a pattern of demolition as opposed to restoration does not exactly catalyze that process. And it may in many ways make it more difficult for future developers to qualify historic buildings in downtown Front Royal for historic tax credits. And if anyone is not aware of the historic tax credits, they are very real. It's not a legend, they do exist. And the syndication of these historic tax credits is how you attract an investor to what is a marginal project in terms of return on investment, and it makes it a viable project by the investor's ability to capture those state and federal tax credits at the end. If you set a pattern, my concern is, if you set a pattern of demolition, when you have to go to Richmond to then tee up another project for historic tax credits, if the people at the Department of Interior see Front Royal as more inclined to knock things down and the historic core shrinking, they may be less inclined to approve marginal projects for tax credit eligibility. And that is a very real process that you're going to have to face if you have a number of buildings downtown that need to be renovated and repaired over time. Sooner or later, you're going to attract investors who will need those tax credits to get the work done. And the other thing that I'll say in closing is that in the case of Winchester, which I'm most familiar with, everybody talks about how great downtown Winchester is now. Well, I can remember 5 years ago, you could shoot a cannon down Winchester at noon on Saturday and not hit anybody or anything. City management was very, very proactive in laying the foundation to attract developers and to attract businesses and to attract revenue. And it wasn't that they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars available and developers are coming in fleecing. It was subtle changes. You could see that city management was investing where they could in downtown. They were sort of paving the way in terms of administrative processes to attract people to do more redevelopment downtown. And in many ways, the Taylor Hotel was the catalyst that really kicked off downtown Winchester. That sort of happened in conjunction with the new pavers and the new paving and the new lights and things like that. And I'm just concerned that this may set a precedent, a dangerous precedent that tends to send people looking elsewhere rather than attracting more focus to your downtown area as an investment opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? Sure, come up, please. Sign in and also state your name.
Sign in.
Thank you.
My name is Curtis Sieber. I moved to Front Royal in 1981. I was 9 years old. I grew up here. I went to high school in Warren County. I've since moved to Winchester a few years ago, started a business there. But tonight, I see that we have a large crowd here. We have some mixed emotions on what to do with this project. I see, as a realtor, real estate broker, that is a piece of history there on the corner. And I believe that, yes, we're late to the game, as Mike just said, and so several others have Rick pointed out. But I do believe that there is a process that can happen to where that building could be renovated and restored and be a key piece to the gateway of Main Street. You know, we see local areas, been spoke of, Stanton and Winchester, and you know, where it's become a downtown environment. We see millennials in this young generation wanting to be into that walkable amenities, and they want to be a piece of history, and they like that. And as a realtor and broker, I see that as the next generation of people that are moving into Front Royal, Winchester. So I'm all for keeping the building and trying to renovate it.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? We have 2 more minutes.
Actually, I do. Okay.
Sign it, please, and state your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, I don't really have any prepared. Anybody that's been involved in Main Street, and I'm sure you've been told this already, I wasn't here, understands the importance of this corner. And I can understand those who want to preserve it. The last I had looked, it seemed that it was about the same price to renovate, at least protect the facade, as it would be to tear down and start over. So from that point, I was always under the impression it was about equal. There's a lot of challenges with this building, as I'm sure you're aware. As an investor, I've looked at this building several times. One of the bigger challenges is parking. If you take this building alone, has a lot of problems. It's problematic. Parking is an issue. How do you get a return on your investment? I think he's looking at 2.1. I guess if you're going to get some tax credits and all, you can start to bring that down to maybe, and I know you're not here to analyze his balance sheet. I couldn't figure out a way to really make it work. Maybe he has. I hope he has. But standalone, that building is a real challenge. I've always looked at it like the town needs to figure a way to get that whole corner. I think it already owns. Does it still own the old cable building? And you own that one. Well, you should own it. The EDA shouldn't. You should. Never understood that either. But you need to grab, I believe, the Duncan building in between. And I know some people have tried and maybe have come up short, but I think if you think in terms of best possible scenario, to me, the best possible scenario would be if you could get all of that. Then you could do something really, really substantial. Make a really big impact on those coming through town, whether it's a boutique motel or hotel or something that just says, boom, now you're in Front Royal and this is special. And Main Street is the place you need to visit while you're here. So as you look at this, I would just say, and I know the EDA's got plenty of money because they're buying all this other stuff for, gads of money. So maybe the EDA could go talk to the Duncans. But anyway, as it is, I think it's problematic. But it is key. I just heard a little bit of the previous speaker. There is a ton of energy from especially younger people. There's a ton of energy in Winchester, I can tell you. There's a lot happening over there. There's some good things happening here. Some investors, doing some things here. So this is a great opportunity, a great time to try to make something good happen. Wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's everyone? That's pretty easy. Right on time. Okay, well, thank you. Really, thank you all for coming out here and your support of either side that you're on. That was really our purpose for being here tonight. We wanted to hear from you because there are a lot of opinions and feelings and thoughts on this building. So, again, thank you. I guess the next item on our agenda is old business, or do we need to do anything else first?
You need to take an action to vote on the application or to table it.
In the previous meeting. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we had done that. Okay.
discussed it.
Oh, okay.
But we're gonna wait, I think, till, see what input we got tonight, to determine if
Okay.
to make that or not.
What I would suggest is either move to act on it or move to postpone action.
Yeah, I thought we had made the decision to postpone. Okay. Okay, sorry. Out of order.
The next meeting's, time, September 12th.
Let me double check.
Yes, September 12th.
I have a question, I guess. Is this group allowed to have our own closed door meeting? Because we've had the application meeting, a follow-up meeting, and now this public hearing.
There are certain reasons you're allowed to have closed meetings, but you have to follow the Freedom of Information Act.
Sure.
I can send you the reasons for that if you give me an email address, or I can send it to Connie and Jeremy.
Okay, because there's been discussion about having one more meeting before
Or
we
you
take a
can have
vote.
an open work session.
Okay,
And I can send you, why don't I send it to Jeremy or
Yeah.
Connie and you can send it.
okay. Alright, so then we take action tonight, we either vote or a motion to postpone or to table it.
So, I mean, if one or the other, we can't discuss some, and then,
But we can squeeze in a vote. Or
okay. So, another executive session.
Yeah.
You can't have a closed door session without this.
And we would still need the FOIA requirements.
You just can't have a closed meeting. It's not personnel or anything like that.
I don't know what you're going to discuss. I have no idea.
That's words. You advise me, and I can tell you
They may have legal issues. I don't know.
if there's a legal issue.
Yeah, I don't know what they, yeah, I'm not in position to.
I understand, you're taking the right position. You're the expert. You just advise me, I'll take it.
Yeah. And it's open. Discuss it open, discuss it closed. But I'd like to have another meeting before we vote. Yeah. All right, so then.
We don't have, there's not an opportunity, well, I won't be here next week, so if we want to schedule another work session, we can arrange it. Through Connie, I can have one of the other staff members here. Alternatively, you can also meet before the regular meeting on the 12th, so have a work session and then a regular meeting. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, so for, yeah. So I'd like to make the motion now to postpone any vote on the demolition application until our next meeting scheduled for September 12th. All in favor? Aye. All right. So September 12th. Not yet. Now we get to discuss old business if there is any.
Thank you, everybody.
You can stand in the corner.
Why don't you?
Yeah, I asked him, I seen him up there one time. I said, I'm all day, man.
That's fine.
Hey, Patrick, you got
I'll send you a message.
Thank you all for your time.
Hey, Patrick, how are you?